It feels like pool video games are one of those things that come up every once in a while, but raise the question, why would anyone play this now? In the case of Break-In, I can tell you that a shocking amount of effort went into this game. It has more game variants than you see even in more modern pool games, and there's a weird technological flex in it. The kind of thing that I think is the first for a console video game, and it's coming from a place that you wouldn't expect. Of course, I know you have one burning question about Break-In, since you can see the publisher right there on screen. Did Nexatsoft continue to make the label of their cue card just a photo of the game's title screen? And yes, they did. There are 3 different modes from the title screen: Simulation, Action, and Technique. Simulation and Action are almost identical, except that in Action mode, sometimes you just randomly screw up your shot. You can improve the odds of you doing well by making sure that you're aiming at the center of the cue ball, and that you always trigger your shot when the indicator is on the chalk portion of the cue. And when it happens, the cue ball just won't go anywhere. Since that's absolutely no fun, you probably want to play Simulation instead. Technique has 3 options below it: Pocket, Chrome, and Fancy Shot. And for these, it will set up the balls on the table for you, then demo how you can do a trick shot, and then ask you to repeat it. Whether you succeed or fail doesn't matter. The game always asks you if you want to try the next shot, retry what you just did, or go back to the menu. The key here is that this is how you learn how to do advanced techniques in the game. Break-In offers 6 varieties of pool or billiards games. Some of them will be pretty familiar if you know pool. 9-ball and 8-ball are the most common variations. Rotation is another one you often see, though it seems to be less popular of a choice. Here, the number on the ball is how many points you get for sinking it, but you're required to hit the lowest ball on the table first every time you take a shot. In this version, you play to a certain number of points. Cut Game is a variation for 3 players, where everyone gets 1/3 of the balls, and your goal is to eliminate the other players by sinking their balls. Gotsudama is a version of billiards, not pool, that's played in Japan. Since it's billiards, there's no pockets on the table. Instead, it's a game for 2 players where each player has their own cue ball, and there are 2 red balls on the table. Your goal is to bank a shot off the edge of the table, and then strike 2 balls. If you strike 2 red balls, you get 3 points, and if you strike a red and a white ball, you get 2 points. If you only strike 1 or 0, then your turn's over and the next player's up. The final game is Bollards, which is a combination of bowling and billiards. The game takes place across 5 frames, and your score is how many balls you sink. And similar to bowling, you get 2 chances. So after a shot where you fail to sink any, then you're in the second part of the frame, and you keep trying again until you miss another shot. If you manage to run the table, there's strikes and spares. Once you've picked a game, you can choose to play, do it with a coach, or take on the challenge mode. In the challenge mode, you've got a little story about how you're a stowaway on a cruise ship, and when you're caught, you have to beat every other player on board the ship. If you choose one of the other modes, then you'll need to select how many players will be in the game, and how many people can play depends on which game you've selected. If you've chosen to play with a coach, then you need to pick one of the 14 players who you'd take on in the challenge mode. If you're using that, then you can choose to have the coach aim your shot for you. On the table, you aim your shot with a cursor, and then you have the very strange options of Adjust and Detail. These exist because the position of the balls doesn't match the image on the screen. And unfortunately, the manual doesn't really tell you how to read this. Detail is used to select particular balls, while Adjust focuses the point of the cursor. Now I think, but I'm not sure because, as I said, the manual section on the Adjust and Detail function doesn't tell you anything about them. I think the crosshair is an overhead view of where that cursor is pointed at, and the dots represent the center point of each ball. Honestly, it's confusing and it does not help. Then you select where you're going to strike the cue ball in order to adjust the spin. I'm just gonna freeze this for a moment. Do you notice anything odd or special about this? Let me just zoom in really good. You see that background? Those are the first 3D rendered graphics in any console game. Or at least I think that's the case. I've been searching for an earlier example and can't find one. Now that's not the first 3D graphics in a video game. Computer games and arcade games have had them before. And there's even few examples of 3D rendered graphics being changed to raster images, basically pictures of the 3D render. But those pictures of the bumpers at the edge of the table are the first 3D images rendered in a console game. Of course, the balls and pockets are just sprites laid on top of it, and the use of those 3D graphics is so minor that I have to wonder why they even bothered. But somebody had to be first. Those 3 flat-shaded polygons are actually kind of hard to do on a video game console of this era, since the math is a bit slow, and they don't have things like extra memory overhead that help computers do it. Oddly enough, this isn't the only 3D graphics we're going to see on the PC Engine. There's a game we're going to see well down the road that's almost entirely 3D rendered. If I stay on schedule, I'll get to that one sometime in 2027. You might have noticed that Break-In is entirely in English. Or I should say, all of the words in Break-In are in English, but it is very badly translated. It's bad enough that it can actually throw you off in some places. Like in 8-Ball, you either have high or low balls. High corresponds to the stripes, low corresponds to the solids. You don't have to look hard here for things that'll make you go, yeah, that doesn't help. Break-In is a game that's pretty much completely overlooked in Japan. I couldn't find a single person talking about it. Though I did find some people playing a piano duet version of the game's music, so somebody must like that. My own feelings on Break-In is, I wish this was a better game. I really like how it offers a huge variety of pool and billiards, but the controls and interface are so awful. You're moving a cursor, so aiming a shot should be simple, but it often doesn't quite work the way you'd expect. There seems to be a complex physics model behind the game, but it's just enough out of sync with reality that it all feels wrong. Break-In is a case of them getting the high-level stuff right, and all the little details wrong.